Okay, let's see how my Blaze the Cat video is doing. It received a fair amount of comments. I'm sure most of them are positive feedback about the video itself. I'm the biggest Blaze Glazer you'll ever see, but I don't want Sega to milk her or replace one of the main characters with her. I wonder which character they're talking about. She's just a really good character to not waste and should get a main role. Should get main role games from time to time like Rush, then decently often side roles like Black Knight. It was perfect in the 2000s for her. I agree. Also, not too much on Silver homie, he cool. I agree that Blaze needs more spotlight, but chill on the Silver slander. I wonder what the replies look like. Listen man, I like Silver too, but until Sega does something for him, the slander will continue until the end of time. This guy gets it. Silver can honestly die in an 06 hole for making Blaze a sidekick in almost every game they appear in together. Thanks to this video, now I truly remember why I used to hate Silver a lot back then. That's kind of a petty reason to hate a character. Yeah, I know, but you can't argue it was a somewhat valid reason to hate the Twink. Blaze is retconned in 06. She never was, that's pure fan headcanon. Her in-game description straight up says she's from her dimension. Sonic Rush continuity. You are correct. That is her description. That is her backstory. In Sonic Rush, in every other Sonic game, in Sonic 06, she's retconned. She's not from the Soul Dimension. Blaze is Silver's sidekick in 06. She's not. Being one of his amigos doesn't make her a sidekick. Is Knuckles now Sonic's sidekick too? In Sonic 06 specifically? I would say yes, because Knuckles doesn't do anything. He's not relevant to the story at all. The only thing he does is give Sonic the message from Eggman. Other than that, Knuckles just tags along for the ride, barely interacting with anyone, and just gets his participation award. Blaze does the same thing in Silver's story, so yes, Blaze is Silver's sidekick in Sonic 06. Just Sonic 06. Blaze never interacted with anyone in 06, and that's Silver's fault. Firstly, before I even continue, I didn't say that. I didn't say it was Silver's fault at all. I didn't blame him for the way Blaze was treated in 06. So I don't know where that came from. They shoehorned her in last minute because she's a fan favourite from Rush. Hardly anything to do with Silver. You're right, she has hardly anything to do with Silver. Gold star for noticing. Listen, I'm all in for they're not a good duo. For the record, I never really said they were a bad duo. I just wasn't a big fan of them as a duo. Silver and Blaze, despite having a very different backstory, thanks to 06 alone, resulted in them constantly being connected to one another. I even mentioned that in my Eggman Nega video. But that doesn't mean I hate the fact that they could be a duo. That doesn't mean I don't want them to ever interact with each other. You know, reading these comments, I'm starting to think that others believe that I don't like Silver. And you know what? You're absolutely right. Silver's a fucking lame, useless character. The Ojiro of the Sonic series, if you will. By that I mean, he's completely irrelevant. He's pointless. He adds nothing to the series. He has no reason of being here. He earns a participation award from time to time. But other than that, he's ignored by everyone and everything around him. Silver is an absolute useless twink of a character.
And I agree with my classmates.
Okay, settle down. I don't really hate Silver. Let's calm down. With the intro out of the way, let's actually talk about Silver in a more formal / professional manner, shall we? So, Silver the Hedgehog. He's from the far future, and unfortunately, this hedgehog is stuck in some time paradox where his future is always screwed. In his debut game, Sonic 06, his world was in ruins thanks to Iblis. After another fight with the monster, this friendly fellow shows up and offers him a way to fix everything. Our friendly hedgehog here, who doesn't have any weird or disturbing traits to him whatsoever, convinces Silver that Sonic the Hedgehog is the one responsible for his world being the mess that it's in. Of course it was Sonic the Hedgehog. Who else would it have been? Shadow? Omega? Cream the Rabbit? Anyway, our non-creepy, disturbing friend here has offered Silver the Hedgehog a chance to change the past. Silver has travelled back in time with the intentions of killing Sonic the Hedgehog, the Iblis trigger, the one responsible for his world being the way it is. I'm not going to focus too much on this here because Sonic 06's story is, well, 06's story, but I find it really funny that there's not a single moment in Silver's story where he suspects that Mephiles is lying to him. Even when he does realise that Sonic isn't the Iblis trigger, and decides to team up with him to help save Elise, there's never a moment in his story where he confronts Mephiles or questions Mephiles. After realizing Sonic is not the Iblis Trigger and tries to help him save Elise, which goes very poorly, he and Sonic uses Chaos Control so that Sonic can travel back in time to save Elise. Silver's plan? To travel back into the future, so his present, and just confront Iblis again, with the intentions of sealing him away. There's never a moment in Silver's story where he confronts Mephiles. Add that to the list of problems 06 has, I guess. And maybe something a remake or a movie could fix. More on that later. Back to what I said earlier in the video, Silver is in this awkward paradox. Because Sonic 06, that gets completely wiped from the timeline. Whatever canon that Sonic has, 06 has been erased from it. But unfortunately, we then move on to Silver's next appearance, which is Rivals, and Silver's pretty much in the exact same situation again. He's travelled back in time with the intention of trying to fix his timeline. And I think it's also a safe assumption that that is the reason why he's in Sonic Forces. He's travelled back in time once again because his future is once again fucked. This time probably courtesy of Dr. Eggman and Infinite. While it was a brief scene, I give Silver some props for going up against Infinite in Sonic Forces. Unfortunately, it's not enough to redeem his character overall though. So let's talk about that real quick. Jokes aside, Silver the Hedgehog, at least in my opinion, just isn't a great character. I don't find him interesting personality wise, he barely gets anything to do whenever he does appear in a Sonic game, and like many other characters within the Sonic franchise, this results in him kind of being forgotten. The most memorable thing about Silver is the fact that he originated from Sonic 06 and that he's a character from the far future. And this is where we can obviously talk about the potential that Silver has. With that said, I imagine it's kind of a nightmare if you were in charge of writing a new Sonic story and you're told that Silver the Hedgehog needs to appear in it. Because now obviously you need to create a story that involves time travel, that involves the future, to give a reason why Silver's here. And I imagine that can be a nightmare depending on the scenario. His backstory makes it complicated. Not impossible, just difficult. Especially depending on what type of story you want to tell. Okay, so first off, let's talk about the games. An obvious template for how Silver could work in a Sonic game, in a playable status again, obviously is Project 06. The fan-made remake of 06 that actually makes it good, competent, just simply a fun game to play through. Silver's abilities in Project 06 makes for a perfect template of what potential he has as a playable character. Comparing Project 06 Silver to regular 06 Silver is like night and day when it comes to how much fun you can have with his playstyle. In OG 06 you constantly had to rely on doing the ground pound attack to stun the enemies around you, pick them up and just throw them at the other enemies. Or use your powers to pick up other objects to throw. Then you make Silver one of the slowest characters in the game, you chuck him into these big open spaces like the hub worlds, and it's just not fun. Project 06 makes up for that. It shows what Silver could do. He uses his powers to keep up with the other two Hedgehogs. He can be fast, he can be fun. He has multiple ways of attacking enemies. He can use his abilities to fly over parts of the level that Sonic and Shadow will just look at and be like, well shit. I guess Sonic will just have to run and find another path and Shadow will just have to utilize Chaos Control. Silver meanwhile is just like, alright guys, see you later, I'm just gonna fly over here, catch up when you can. You're too slow. Okay, moving away from Project 06, or any other fan game for that matter, Silver the Hedgehog appearing in a mainline official Sonic game. How do we do it? So once again I am going to bring up Sonic Frontiers for this. A game similar to Sonic Frontiers I think would be a good way to reintroduce Silver the Hedgehog as a playable character. Being able to fly around in this big open space, open zone. Silver having the ability to use his powers to manipulate the environment around him so he can explore different areas of the zone that other characters can't. And of course being able to use these powers to fight enemies. Similar to how we do see it in 06 and Project 06, stunning them, turning them into his own projectiles against other enemies. But let's give him his own projectile attacks, give him some other unique abilities that only he can use, utilising his powers. The potential's there, we all know that. And I think a game like Sonic Frontiers would be a good way to reintroduce Silver the Hedgehog as a playable character, like I said. Silver's story could still pretty much be the same. He's travelled back in time because his present, future, whatever is fucked. What a surprise. And he's come back in time to try and fix it again. The villain could be a completely new villain. It could be Eggman Nega with his own version of Sage at this point. I suggested that in my Eggman Nega video. Go check that out. And I think a game like this would more likely feature 2 other hedgehogs to finally make these 3 characters a trio that Sega probably wanted back when Silver was first introduced. I mentioned in my Blaze video that I would much rather see her fighting alongside Sonic and Shadow as a trio, but that doesn't mean I don't want to see Silver in action as well. The idea of seeing Sonic, Shadow and Silver fighting side by side, especially in their super forms, that sounds great, I want to see that. Regardless if it's Frontiers or a different type of Sonic game, I think the main priority would be to redeem Silver the Hedgehog because that's what he needs. He needs a game like Shadow Generations. He needs a game that focuses on him, that kind of tries to not necessarily ignore his backstory, but fix it, improve on it, and maybe answer some questions about it, because there's something I've been wondering for a long time, and this is where we get into the problem of the plot of his backstory being time travel. Does Silver the Hedgehog remember every time he's travelled back in time to prevent his future from being fucked? Because if he goes back in time and changes the past, that also changes his future, resulting in him never having to go back in time in the first place, right? But does that mean Silver the Hedgehog would exist in that new future? Or let me rephrase that. Would the same Silver the Hedgehog exist in this new future? In Sonic 06, Sonic Rivals and Sonic Forces, is that the same Silver the Hedgehog? Or are these 3 different versions of the same character? Because even ignoring everything about Sonic 06's plot, it never happened. So is that how Eggman Nega became Silver's main villain? Because the events of 06 didn't happen? But he also went back in time to prevent Eggman Nega from winning, to make sure that the Ifrit doesn't break out in Rivals 2. But doing that, is that what results in the events of Forces being able to happen? With Silver once again getting screwed over and having to come back in time again? I don't know, time travel plots have the potential of being some of the most confusing stories in any form of media. And I'm saying that as someone who enjoys watching Doctor Who and play games like Life is Strange. Speaking of the time travel stuff though, another idea I have for a hypothetical Sonic game, regardless if it's like Frontiers, regardless if it's like an adventure style game, what if instead of it being a story where Silver has gone back in time, we had a story where Team Sonic and maybe Team Dark have ended up travelling into the far future? And this kind of goes into what I was ranting about earlier about, is this the same Silver the Hedgehog from previous games? Look, if we're going to have a time travel plot, you might as well just go all in with how crazy it can get, right? With alternate continuities and alternate timelines and whatnot. So what if we had a story where Sonic and the gang ends up in the far future, they meet Silver, but it's not the same Silver that they know. Because this is a different future, this is a different timeline. Silver hasn't come back in time, this time Sonic and the gang has travelled into the future, to a point before Silver has travelled back in time to meet Sonic and the gang. This is sounding very confusing and I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert at this. I'm just suggesting the basic idea of what if we had an adventure that wasn't Silver travelling back in time, but it was Sonic and the gang travelling into the future. But going back to Sonic 06, this is where we get to a topic of discussion I haven't really talked about in my previous Sonic videos. Instead of it being a new game, what if Silver the Hedgehog got another chance in a new Sonic game, but said Sonic game was a remake? That's right, I am talking about the topic of a remake of Sonic 06. A lot of people are asking for that, or at least interested in that idea, and I'm one of them. Now I would definitely prefer a Sonic Adventure and Adventure 2 remake first, but if eventually down the line, if that could result in 06 getting a remake as well, I'd be all for it. We know how much of a mess Sonic 06 is, so let's remake it. Despite the risk, at this point, I'm willing to take it. I would love to see an attempt on an 06 remake. Create a good version of that story that doesn't involve Princess Elise falling in love with a blue anthropomorphic hedgehog and deciding to kiss his dead corpse. What a freak. Let's have a version of 06 where Sonic doesn't even have to be killed. Injured, sure, but we don't need to kill him. I would like to remind everyone that Sonic 06 was supposed to be an anniversary game to celebrate 15 years of Sonic the Hedgehog. And the guys decided the best way to celebrate Sonic the Hedgehog would be by killing him in his anniversary game. Let's not change Eggman's appearance. We keep that as is, thank you. We don't need what it was in 06. Let's use Project 06 and Sonic Frontiers as a template of what the character's abilities should be during gameplay, and let's try and redeem not just Silver the Hedgehog, but Sonic 06 as a whole. Let's do it, let's go for it, I'm all in. A lot of changes will be required to fix this mess, but I think it's possible to fix. Not just as a fan remake with levels, but as a full overhaul of the story. Rewrite the story, start from scratch with that. Redesign the levels, redesign the gameplay mechanics. Let's just go all in and try to create an alternate version of Sonic 06. The basic template of the story is the same. You've got Sonic, Shadow and Silver as the main trio. You've got Mephiles the Dark, Iblis, and the backstory with Solaris. Princess Elise can still exist. She just doesn't fall in love with the Hedgehog, and Sonic doesn't fall in love with the human. We don't need that shit. As much as it hurts me, let's remove Blaze the cat. She shouldn't have been in the game in the first place. She's from the Soul Dimension. What is she doing here? Why is she in the far future with Silver here? Either find a way to rework her actual backstory from being from the Soul Dimension into it, or just remove her completely and replace her with someone else. I know this is a very big, ambitious idea, and I'm not going to pretend I'm the first one to have it either. A remake of Sonic Adventure, Sonic Adventure 2, and if that eventually leads to a remake of 06, I would love that. I want that. But that's enough about the games. Whether it be in a remake of 06 or in a completely new Sonic game, of course Silver has potential. Of course I would love to see Silver get another chance. He's a naive little dork, and while I'm not attached to him that much as a character now, that doesn't mean I'm not willing to give him another chance to impress me or make me change my mind. I want to change my mind on Silver, but he just hasn't been given much to do in the games for me to care. So if not in the games, maybe the movies. Once again, it's time for the movie portion of this video. God, imagine if I was making these type of videos back in the early 2010s. What if Blaze the Cat appeared in a Sonic movie? What if Mephiles the Dark appeared in a Sonic movie? What if Dark Sonic was in a Sonic movie? Ben, what the hell are you talking about? There isn't even a Sonic film. Are you talking about that OVA from years ago? That's the closest we have to a Sonic film. What is this guy even talking about? We are never going to get a Sonic movie. And even if we did, you really think that they would start with Blaze the Cat or Mephiles the Dark? Obviously the first movie would focus on Sonic the Hedgehog, you dumbass. Oh my god, now Ben's suggesting it's a live action series of films. What do you mean live action? A live action Sonic movie? That's a terrible idea. That would look so stupid. And of all characters to appear in this film, you want it to be Mephiles the Dark? You want Sonic to turn into Dark Sonic? You want Jim Carrey playing as Eggman Nega? What are you smoking and where can I find some? Yeah, that pretty much sums up how I think people would react if I made videos like this in the early 2010s. Anyway, Sonic Movie 4's post-credit scene could very well be a tease for Silver the Hedgehog. It could happen, we might get it. To be honest, what can I say about this topic that other people haven't said already? Talking about redeeming not just Silver but Sonic 06, maybe the films are the better choice for that. Screw the games, this is a different continuity, so any changes that are made to the backstory of the character or the backstory of the overarching plot itself, who cares if it's different? For as long as it's still got some similarities, that's all it needs. This would be, like I said for Blaze the Cat, a fresh start for Silver the Hedgehog. Appearing in a post-credit scene first, and then appearing as a main character in the next film, could be the perfect way to reintroduce this character with a pretty much clean slate. So Silver the Hedgehog gets teased in one film, and then in the next film we get his backstory, his storyline, and it's pretty much the 06 storyline but remastered, remade in a hopefully refreshing, confident way. One question I think we need to ask is, would Blaze the Cat appear? I think I've made it clear already. I don't think Blaze the Cat and Silver the Hedgehog needs to be a duo. So if it isn't Blaze the Cat, would Silver have someone by his side? I have two ideas for this. One idea basically is what I talked about in my Mephiles video. And in a way, this could still be Blaze the Cat. Or at least, it's seemingly Blaze the Cat. Imagine, just like in the game, Silver and Blaze are the main duo dealing with Iblis from the far future. They meet Mephiles, they've travelled back in time, Silver learns that Sonic isn't the Iblis trigger, and he teams up with Team Sonic to take down Mephiles after learning that he is actually the main villain. Yeah, they did defeat that version of Mephiles, but it turns out that was just a copy. The real Mephiles was standing alongside Silver this whole time. The Blaze the Cat we've been following in this movie, seemingly teamed up with Silver from the far future, wasn't Blaze the Cat, it was Mephiles in disguise this whole time. I think it would make for a fun way to trick both the characters and the audience, because obviously there will be those Sonic fans out there that would see Blaze the Cat in this movie, probably still being pissed off that her origins isn't her being from the Soul Dimension, but seemingly from the future with Silver the Hedgehog. But then later in the movie it's revealed that Blaze the Cat wasn't Blaze the Cat, it was Mephiles in disguise this whole time, just playing a game, having some fun, manipulating Silver. This would potentially open the door to the real Blaze the Cat from the Soul Dimension still being introduced later on in the Sonic films. If you think that idea is crazy, I've got another one for you. Styx the Badger.
I knew TV was just a big conspiracy to control everyone's minds. I'm not talking to you. You keep watching.
Let's replace Blaze the Cat with Styx the Badger in the Sonic films. She's the character from the far future. She's friends with Silver. Her personality is basically the complete opposite of what Silver's personality is. And the two of them are just trying to save what's left of their world. Then you still have the basic story of them travelling back in time, believing Sonic's the Iblis trigger, learning the truth, teaming up with Team Sonic, possibly Team Dark as well, to finally defeat Mephiles the Dark. Styx originally was created to be a Sonic Boom exclusive character, but thanks to Sonic Frontiers, we now know that a version of Styx the Badger exists in the main Sonic universe. Let's take it a step further and establish her character in the Sonic films. I don't see a problem with this. So those are my two ideas for Silver's friend, sidekick, ally, whatever you want to call it. Either it's Mephiles in disguise as Blaze the Cat, messing with both the characters and the audience, believing that it was indeed Blaze this entire time, leaving the door open for her to actually be established in the universe later on in a future project, or Styx the Badger. Introduce her in the Sonic movies as another character from the far future. Seeing Silver's powers in action in the films, I know it would look gorgeous. I know it would look fantastic. You could give him badass scenes similar to Magneto from the X-Men films. I think one of the scenes I would be excited to see the most would be Silver's reaction when he initially has travelled back in time to see the world in a more stable, healthy state compared to the world he came from in the far future. There's a scene like that in Sonic 06, and Project 06 added this scene from the start of his tropical jungle level, which I really love, and I think this would make for a great scene for Silver if he did appear in the films. I think we would be in for a very fun fight scene where Silver's just using his powers to toy with Sonic, Tails and Knuckles. It would be very similar to Shadow from movie 3. With all that said, I think I've rambled long enough about this topic. At the end of the day, Silver the Hedgehog has potential. I know it, you know it. I am open to having my opinion on Silver being changed. I want him to be a character I like, a character I respect, a character I'm excited to see in action. And maybe one day in the future we'll finally get that game where he gets to do that, or he makes an appearance in a film, being a post-credit scene at the end of a movie at first, but then he gets to shine in the next film, possibly even getting his own solo project within the films, like what's going on with Shadow. If not that, maybe we can finally get a TV appearance from this Hedgehog. Another Sonic anime, Sonic X Season 4. I'm sure I'm not the only one that remembers those screenshots from the early days of YouTube. Sonic X Season 4, it's happening guys. Look, there's Silver and there's Blaze. Oh, and is that Mephiles as well? Wild. But until Silver gets that chance, to me, he will still be the Ojiro of the Sonic series. And trust me, you don't want to be the Ojiro of your series. That is probably a fate worse than death. With all that said, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Let's see, what other comments do we have on here? Oh, there's this one. Looks like there's quite a lot here. Read more. Oh my god! Before I give you my feedback on your video, I love to share you a lot of my info about both Princess Blazy as well as Prince Sonic. Let's see, we seem to have talked about ship names and character ships. Looks like we're diving into some fanfiction territory here. I think he might or might not be more interested in her feet. Why her feet, you may ask? I read a still unfinished fanfiction story, that's always a great way to start a sentence, that Prince Sonic never believed he'll have a girlfriend, because he believed it only slowed him down, and both Amy's feet and Princess Sally's feet are slow. But Princess Blazy seems to be the only female with very fast feet that can evenly match his speed. Well, with her high heels on, mind you, because since wearing high heels slows a woman's run down, then taking them off and running in barefoot, or either wearing something flat like her Olympic trainers or her rider's boots, means she can go far beyond more faster than even him as the new fastest thing alive. So maybe, or maybe not, he likes her feet.
What the hell was that?